How did we go from plantations to mass incarceration? The history of Angola plantation, which evolved into the notorious Angola prison, highlights a disturbing continuity in the economic and racial exploitation of Black Americans. This transformation from a plantation to a prison illustrates a broader pattern in American history, where systems of racial control have adapted over time to maintain social and economic dominance. Angola plantation was established in the early 1800s, relying on enslaved black labor to produce cotton. Following the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, the southern economy faced a significant upheaval. To address labor shortages and maintain control over the black population, southern states implemented the convict lease system. This system allowed states to lease prisoners to private businesses, including plantation owners, replicating the conditions of slavery under a new guise. In 1901, Louisiana purchased Angola plantation and converted it into a state penitentiary where inmates, mostly blacks, were forced to work under harsh conditions. This shift illustrates how economic exploitation and racial control adapted to the post-slavery era. During the antebellum period, slave catchers played a critical role in upholding the institutions of slavery. These individuals, often operating with quasi-official status, were tasked with capturing and returning runaway slaves. After the Civil War, many former slave catchers transitioned into formal law enforcement roles. The badges of sheriff's departments bear a striking resemblance to those used by slave catchers, symbolizing an enduring legacy. This continuity highlights how law enforcement evolved to continue the social control mechanisms essential to maintaining racial hierarchies, focusing on the policing of newly freed Black Americans during Reconstruction and beyond. In the 19th century, Irish immigrants fleeing famine and poverty found employment as overseers on southern plantations. These overseers were responsible for managing enslaved laborers and maintaining productivity, often through brutal means. Post-Civil War, many Irish immigrants transitioned into law enforcement roles as urbanization and industrialization progressed. Their experience as overseers translated well into policing, where maintaining order and enforcing laws often meant controlling Black populations. The end of slavery brought about significant changes, but many southern states enacted black codes designed to restrict the freedom of Black Americans and assure their availability as cheap labor. Violations of these codes often led to incarceration. The convict lease system, which emerged during Reconstruction, allowed states to lease prisoners to private companies and plantation owners, effectively perpetuating the conditions of slavery. Angola prison stands as a prime example of this system. Inmates, primarily blacks, were forced to work in the same fields where their ancestors had toiled as slaves, reflecting the continuity of economic exploitation and racial subjugation.